Hi, I am Brent Feldman. I'm your host of Mix and Matchbox. And today we have with us Tim Stone, support engineer for Matchbox Design Group, our company here. Very excited to have one of our own on the podcast. How is it going, Tim? How are you doing?
Dude, it's great to be here. I've been a long time listener of the Mix and Matchbox podcast, so very excited to get a chance to come be on.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know. I'm sure there's those podcasts that you listen to, and then once you actually make it as a guest, you're like, "Oh my God, I'm here."
I'm here. I'm here. I've been listening. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I should also probably put your other title out there too about being a host of your own podcast. Yeah, feel free. You can give a shout out. Plugs are welcome.
Yeah, I host another show called Things I Learned Last Night. It's a comedy podcast, and I just tell my buddy all the things I learned last night, and he makes fun of me for like an hour. So if you like listening to someone get made fun of, you might like our show.
and learning.
You learn a little bit, just a little bit. But you'll laugh a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, it is. It's super good to have you on, and I'm really excited to dig into these questions. I guess maybe first and foremost, how did you get? We'll do a little bit of development stuff, a little bit of your own podcast, but how did you get started in development, and really, what's the thing that makes it exciting for you?
Yeah. It's kind of a weird story. I kind of fell backwards into it, which might be true of a lot of people in a lot of professions, I think. I was actually going to Bible school, and I got a work study as part of my benefits package to be able to attend the school. And part of that, I had to go find a job on campus to pay my way through school. And I got two job offers. One, that was the accounts receivable executive assistant, which was like the second floor of the administration building in the president's office, like all the glamour. I think it paid like $12 an hour. And then I got associate copywriter, which was in the marketing department, which was in the basement of the administration building and literally in an old janitor's closet. Like they just shoved a bunch of desks in a closet underneath the stairs and we're like, that's the marketing department. And I don't know what it was. I was just like, that's the one I want. I want that one. I don't want the one upstairs with all the title and the glory. I want the one in the basement. And I took that, and the role was supposed to be just updating copy for the website. But pretty quickly in my work there, the lead developer on the team was like, hey, I think you can do this. I want to make a web developer out of you. And so he just kind of took me under his wing, and he actually would print layouts of websites and hand me this printer paper of a website and be like, hey, when you go home tonight, build this. And I didn't even know anything about code or HTML, or like I couldn't even Google. I didn't have the words. And so I spent a long time like just kind of falling down rabbit holes on how to build a website, and figured my way through trying to make that layout from that printer paper. And then I'd send him my code, and he would critique it and tell me, hey, there's a way easier way to do what you just did. And then we did this a handful of times until I started figuring it out. And then next thing I know, I graduated and was offered a 35-hour-a-week job because legally they weren't allowed to take on any more full-time workers. So I came on at 35 hours a week, and he and I rebuilt the university website together. And so that was kind of the way I just kind of fell backwards into it. Didn't think I was going to do it. Had no plans to go into that, and here I am.
There you go. And then I was just creeping on your LinkedIn profile, and happened to stumble across you and ask, you wouldn't know anybody, would you?
I was like, matter of fact, I do. And it's me.
It's a guy with two thumbs.
This guy. No, but I love it. I love being able to take code, which is literally just letters in a document, and turn it into a tool that actually makes money for businesses. It's crazy to me that I can sit down and type something that turns into something real. Which is so fun. It really is so much fun. So really glad I kind of fell into it. Really glad I met that guy. He's still my mentor. We still talk all the time, and I still can bounce things off of him when I'm not sure what to do about something. So really thankful for that relationship.
That's super cool. So I guess, now, sort of in your role, you're on the support team for Matchbox, and like, what would you say makes, this type of customer service different from other types of customer service? Because, it's definitely, it's a mix of certainly helping people. You're kind of solving problems, but yeah, what in your, sort of mind makes this kind of different or unique?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of customer service, you work with customers who, even if they don't really understand what's going on under the hood, like they understand what you're doing. They get a concept, and you might get customers a lot that really get it. While I was in college, I also had a second job where I was making sandwiches, and people understood how that worked, and they would often tell me I was doing it wrong. Uh, and so that kind of customer service, like people get it. But when it comes to customer service in anything in the tech world, a lot of your customers, you might as well be speaking Greek and Roman to them. They know what they want to see. They can say, "Hey, I want this," but they can't put it in terms that are the type of terms you might use. And so, not only do you have to be able to parse what they're communicating to figure out what they want when they don't know the language for that, but you also then have to be able to communicate things back to them in language that they would understand, which can sometimes be very difficult to simplify that into kind of layman's terms. But it's pretty fun to me, honestly. It's fun to be able to take something where I could chop it up with a developer and have a conversation in 10 seconds to be like, here's what we need to do. But then to have to sit down and be like, okay, how do I explain this to someone who doesn't know all of those terms, doesn't understand all that language, and then break that out and then be like, wow, this is something that I really have to break out into multiple paragraphs to make it clear, which is, it's interesting. It's an entertaining exploit for me.
Yeah. Like it's cool because like, I think there's a lot of, like places in this world where I think, people get caught in, in the thing. And it always reminds me of Office Space. Like I talk to the engineers, like, you need that translator of sorts, but where you find that like mechanic or something who actually can tell you about what's wrong with your car, why it's going wrong, but then also not, do it in a rude way or seemingly shady way where you're like, okay, great. I really get it. And I feel like there's such a skill and art to, breaking down a problem, making it intelligible, and really just trying to relate to somebody at the end of the day. Customer service, I think, is so much about that. So yeah, it's cool.
Absolutely. I think it's similar. It's very similar to the mechanical world because I think a lot of people, they kind of get burnt by mechanics if they have a bad experience. And I think a lot of people have had bad experiences with devs where I don't know if there are devs out there that might do shady stuff, but I think a lot of them, they just can't communicate what they're trying to say effectively. And it leads people to be like, I don't understand what's going on here. And I don't know what we're spending our money on. And I don't know what they're doing. And it's because there's that communication barrier. And so that's something I'm glad that I get to kind of bridge that gap. It's a lot of fun to me.
That's cool. Yeah. Glad to have you on the team for that. Is there, really a common thread that you see of what like people are most desperate for besides a fix of their issue? Do you think they're seeking understanding? Do you think that they're but like obviously you sometimes get people that are in peril, they're like, yeah. Like my site is down, that is our lifeblood, that is what we need. But is it always just like, oh, fix it and be done with it? Or do you think there's something more to stewarding that that relationship?
Yeah, I think more than anything, and I think this is true in any customer service role, I think our customers want to be heard and they want to feel understood and they want to feel like their needs are valuable to us because at the end of the day, there's this challenge that I think anybody who works in customer service feels is you have a lot of issues on your plate. You have a lot of things that are high priorities that you need to handle. And so another issue comes in and sometimes it can be tough to really reach to that issue and recognize it as a big issue because for the client, it is. Whether it's something in your internal scale that falls under urgent or high priority, to them, it is a high priority. To them, if they're reaching out to you, it's something that really matters and it's something that they care about, whether it's something that they want to add as a new feature or something that's an issue that they want fixed. And so it's of the utmost importance to them to feel like they're heard, to feel like you care and that you value what they are concerned about. And I think it's it's really easy when you have a lot of stuff happening not to do that. And I think that's where a lot of people start feeling, or that's where I think a lot of exits happen from agency client relationships, where they're like, they just don't, they're not attentive to our needs. If we can show up and we can hear them and value their opinion and be able to have conversations with them when we need to have conversations with them, but be able to quickly and effectively be like, hey, we see the issue and we're working on it and we're doing everything we can to make sure that that's not a problem. I think that's what they want. I've had experiences like that with other agency relationships where they treat you like you're their only customer. And it's like, gosh, I will give you as much money as you want for as long as you want it. When you have that relationship. And then the other side of it where it's like, oh yeah, we can meet with you in 3 months to talk about it. It's like, fine, I'll find somebody else.
Yeah.
So you want to feel like you're valued and you're heard.
Yeah. That's super helpful. I guess since you are thrown into really random problems, there's not necessarily always like, a consistent type of thing that, comes at you day to day. Could be something as easy as like, maybe content stuff or like, real serious problems with web application. But what sort of learning and development, do you do, not just, part of like obviously working through some of these issues, but in order to be able to keep up with those needs?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're outside the world of dev, I think a lot of people, and I definitely thought this before, you think coders sit down and they code all day. But really, that's very little of the job. The majority of the job is reading. You read so much as a developer. Anything in any sort of computer engineering, like you're going to spend a lot of time reading documentation, reading the quote unquote owner's manuals of all the different tools that you're using. Because in modern development, any site, any app, anything out there is using multiple code bases, tons of plugins, tons of extensions and different frameworks to be able to execute all the different things that they're doing. And it's just not possible. There's dozens to hundreds of those in any platform that we're working on. And it's not possible for any engineer to know off the back of their hand what all those things are doing at any point. And so you spend a lot of time reading and learning where to find the information you need to find, whether that's the specific tools documentation or through specific forums all over the net. And another good thing, I just said net and it took me back to the 90s for a second. I haven't said that in forever.
Mm-hmm. I just envisioned all these like, the pipelines and stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like, yeah. And then I heard some modem noises in the background.
Yeah, there it is. But the fun new thing is ChatGPT. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's a crazy new tool that came out recently. But one of the things that's crazy to me that I use it for all the time is I'll just grab code, I'll throw it in there and be like, hey, explain this to me. And so if I'm working on a project that whether we developed it internally or we inherited the site from a client where someone else had built that site, I can grab the code and be like, explain what this code does. And then I could be like, okay, here's the decisions that were made when building this, and here's what each line of this does. And then I can go through to figure out how to solve the issue after doing that, it's hugely helpful and it saves a ton of time. Because before it was just reading all those lines of code and trying to be like, okay, what's happening here? And why did this developer decide to do it this way?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because we do a pretty good job internally at Matchbox documenting what we do and writing comments in line to explain our decisions. But especially if we inherit from externally, it's not true of every agency. And so a lot of our work, especially on the support team, when we're working on those inherited sites, is like, why did you do this? And so you become kind of like an investigator coming through the code, trying to figure some stuff out. And so ChatGPT has been helpful in speeding that process up for us a little bit.
That is great. Yeah. And it's funny. You actually went to the place I was going to. I mean, like, how important is documentation?
Oh, it's so important. I can't tell you how many times we've had issues where we go reference our docs and see, okay, good. We've documented this issue before. We've documented how this process works. And had we not done that, we would have spent hours triaging and trying to figure out, okay, where is this problem coming from and how can we fix it? Where if you have documentation, it's almost immediate. You just can go straight to actually solving the issue instead of all that investigation. So it's so important. It's kind of like the like taking your car to AutoZone and plugging it into the machine. Like, yeah, you could get under the hood and just start fiddling with stuff for a few hours and probably figure out what's wrong, but there's a better way, and documentation is that better way.
I love analogies, and by the way, that was a good one. I feel like that was good, and I'm always thinking, it was like, what's a good corollary to that? And I was like, copying somebody else's homework. They already got the answer. Why not just go through and leverage that answer? But exactly, it's like, if you didn't have that, then you have to like reinvestigate, and that's just it's wasted time at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and that wasted time is wasted budget for our clients, and so anything we can do to save money is important to us.
Boom. All right. Wow. I got to re-encapsulate that later. That's it's a good nugget right there. Well, cool. If there was one problem that you could eradicate, for the world of people dealing with like, any sort of website issue, what would it be and how would you solve it? And you can't say documentation, but
well, actually, it's a big issue, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how to solve it. I don't know how to solve it, but I can say hackers. Hackers are the one thing I would say, man, we got to get rid of those, because I think a lot of people don't think of it like this, but I've always thought of it the same way. Like, if you have a storefront, you're doing everything you can to keep that safe. Like, you're getting an alarm system, you're putting locks on your doors, you're putting up security cameras and things to prevent yourself from someone breaking your windows and stealing your stuff. But a lot of companies, especially smaller organizations, aren't treating their online storefront the same way. And so there are backdoors all over websites where hackers are getting in and they're stealing information, and in unfortunate scenarios, if you're in e-com or have sensitive information for your customers on your site, they're stealing your customer information, and that's a problem. That's a big problem, and they take your site down. A lot of times, a byproduct of them getting in there to get the data is your site going down, and then your ability to run your business is greatly affected. And so there's a lot of things you can do from a security standpoint. You can, the same metaphor, set up your security system, set up software, and set up things to protect yourself. But I don't know how to stop hackers. That's a big problem. That's way above my pay grade. And honestly, I don't know if there's any way to stop them. I had a professor in college who used to say, as long as you live on this world, there will be people who want to kill you and take your stuff, which is true.
Wow. Breaking that news to you lightly. Welcome to the real world, kid.
Here we go. So yeah, hackers are out there, and it's a bummer. If I could, I would get rid of them all. I don't think I can, and so the next best thing is to do everything we can to protect a site. And so that's finding those backdoors, closing them, sealing them up tight, and putting all the security systems in place to keep everything secure. So if you're not doing that, do it. Keep your stuff safe.
That's a really good point. And it's been a problem. I mean, like, we've seen it happen to our client sites and stuff we've inherited, and like, and definitely, and even stuff that, we worked a long time on to put all the best things in place, and you never know what's actually going to come back and get you at the end of the day. I even have, now this was actually my problem, let a whole bunch of WordPress installs fall out of date, probably had a whole bunch of like, plugins with security loopholes on them. And I had been, and this was the other problem. I was using a GoDaddy server. That's probably the first. That's the first thing.
There's the problem.
Yeah, I knew what it was before I even started mentioning the other stuff, but it got taken down, and unfortunately it was like years of work and just like little side projects. And at the end of the day, it was a very, very hard lesson I had to learn, even for myself, even though I'm here, we do this day in, day out, it's just that, everybody is susceptible. And it's just a painful reality that, sometimes it'll happen, and, you're on the other end of an attack, and that can be bad.
It's a big thing, and it can sting. So take any steps you can now to protect yourself from that if you're not, and if you are, take more steps.
Definitely. This is our Crime Stoppers announcement for hackers right now. Gotta have that segment in the show. Cool. Well, switching gears, because we said we were going to do a little bit about development and a little bit about your podcast. So you also have a successful podcast, and you also do that with a partner. Who do you love more, him in that show, or us in Matchbox NY?
He's the worst person I've ever met, so definitely not him. We've been best friends for 10 years, and anybody who's been friends with someone that long knows, man, it's a bitter relationship.
Wait, I've been business partners with Cullen and friends for 17 years at least, because and then it goes back beyond that. So wow, what does that mean for us?
Everybody knows once you hit that 10 mark, things start getting bitter. No, I love. He's a great friend. We're best friends. We've been friends for a long time, doing the podcast for a long time. But of course, I love Mix and Matchbox and the organization I'm a part of. So I can't choose. It's like choosing one of your kids.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I get it. But that is cool, and it's cool to see the development of not only the success that you've had within the podcast, but also like outside of that, the stuff with Google and YouTube, and that's really neat, very fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun working on the projects that have come from that show. It's been cool.
That's awesome. As you mentioned, the joy and excitement in development and the things that kind of like drive you on that front. What is it about creating a podcast that really kind of keeps you engaged? Is it the growth, the fans? What makes that continually exciting?
Honestly, it's interesting. We started this podcast, and for a long time, it was really a hobby for me. It's just recently got to the point where it's something that it's actually profitable. It was a loss for a long, long time. And so for a long time, it was just something that was just fun for me. Now, what's crazy is we've found some decent success, and we've grown a pretty large audience, and that's been super fun to see. But one kind of unexpected side effect that I didn't think we would see, because we're just kind of a dumb comedy podcast. The whole thing is jokes and laughter and stories and bits. And so I never expected there to really be any sort of like, I don't know, positive impact on the world to come from our show. But one weird thing that happened is we've developed a pretty large following in the US prison system, because I don't know if it's on they get iPads in prison now, and maybe not every prison, but some prisons they give them iPads, and for some reason our show is on the iPads, and I don't know if like they have to screen all of them, or if it's because we're clean comedy. Like I don't know what it is about it, but we're there, and a lot of prisons, there's like entire cell blocks that listen to our show together, and we get letters from prison, like on prison letterhead, saying how much they love our show and that they all listen together, and that like we brighten their tough days. And we get letters, comments from family members and stuff saying how much they love our show and how thankful that they are that they get to laugh, because they don't get to do that very much, which is crazy. I didn't expect our dumb little show to actually like brighten somebody's life in a way. But it's cool. It's exciting.
Wow. I didn't expect that to be the answer.
Me neither.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's awesome. Well, and I mean, like, anybody that you can touch, with like, your show, like, obviously that's gotta mean something, but yeah, to get the letters and actual personal accounts of how it actually, meant something, that's really neat.
Yeah. It's really cool to know that we're helping like what's probably the worst time in a person's life, like helping them kind of have a light through that, which is super fun. Also, I love just the street cred to know like Cell Block 8, everybody knows me. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. You got a bunch of people who, got your back.
Yeah. If I ever end up there, hopefully they like the show. Maybe there's some people in the cell block that I could have enemies from.
Let's keep that one on the dollar. We don't want to put that bad stuff out of the other. Everybody loved you in prison. It's great. Oh, that's great. Awesome. And I guess in general, like what's the point in your show that maybe obviously being liked in prison is one thing, but but that made you feel like you were really on to something. Because I know that sometimes it's it's hard. You're feeling it out along the way. As you mentioned, it wasn't making you money, it was losing you money. Mm-hmm. But obviously you got to have this thing where you're like, hey, I think we struck a chord. We got this.
Yeah. We started our show in 2017. And we have been doing it for years, and it did well as a podcast, but it wasn't doing insane numbers or anything like that. And then in 2020, we said, you know what? I think we've got like really good content. Like we listened to our show, and it's really high quality. We think we've got a concept that could win. And we said, how do we get this in front of people? We've got the talent really for the show. How do we get eyeballs on it? And so we sat down and we created a strategy that included a lot of SEO, a lot of social media marketing. And we said, all right, let's run this play and see what happens. And that was the end of 2020. It took us probably 8 months or so, sometime in May or June of 21. We saw that strategy start to work. And we started seeing more and more people showing up every single week to listen to our show. And when we started seeing that, like, oh, hey, we've got something here, because now it's not just oh, we've got good content. We've got content that people are listening to and people are giving us great feedback on, and we're starting to tiptoe into the black. And so we were like, hey, I think this could work. And so that was that. In 21, we did an episode about Bob Lazar, was the one I remember very clearly, where the social media, the SEO, all of that just kind of worked in tandem really well. And I want to say that episode did 10,000 downloads, and we were like, oh, hey, this could be something. And we got a ton of great feedback, and it went really well on YouTube. And then we really doubled down, and we're like, let's go off to the races. Let's see where we can take this.
Yeah. One of my favorite episodes was the one where it was the guy who just kept eating. I can't remember his name, but you know,
I can't remember his name either.
Yeah, and it was like in the Middle Ages or something, and like and he would just eat everything. It didn't matter, and he had an insatiable appetite, and just as much as like I wanted to keep listening, I was like, that was disgusting. Himself, he actually consumed himself.
Yeah, it's an insane story. It's a true story, which is nuts.
Oh man, just thinking about it. Oh wow. But that's really cool. And actually, all right, one other thing that I have to mention about the podcast is there's an octave you hit when you laugh, and you're really laughing, and it really just ramps up there. And I'm like, and I feel like that's it. That's when you know that whatever was said, that is special during that episode. At least that's how
that's how we know what to use for social. Is we have like a decibel meter that we run through the episode, and we're like, all right, that's a social clip right there.
Yeah, nailed it. There we go. Yeah, 2:33 p.m. There we go. Perfect. All right. Well, yeah, I guess, you know, you mentioned like creating that sort of game plan and like, you know, doing, you know, more social stuff. That was super important in order to like, you know, achieve that growth. But, you know, what are those sort of catalysts? You know, is there a magic bullet combination of things? You know, what is that? What's that sort of playbook look like?
Yeah. The magic bullet is there's a guy who works for the government. You have to call him and wire him $10,000. And next thing you know, you're famous.
You started telling that? I was like, I know he's bullshitting me right now.
No, there is no magic bullet. It's what I say to everybody is it's everything. If we only executed on part of this strategy, it wouldn't have worked. It's like the pistons of an engine. You need all of them working for it to work, and you need them working in the correct rhythm. If they're firing at the same time, it's not going to work. If they're misfiring, it's not going to work. You have to have them all working in the right order, in the right rhythm, to get it functioning correctly. What we ran in our play is we'd produced our episode. We got ourselves into a schedule where we were 5 weeks out on every episode to give ourselves the margin to be able to produce a lot of social content for every episode. And we would do, we were following all the current social media trends for those clips to try to make them go viral. Meanwhile, we were writing blog posts for every single episode and pumping them full of all the SEO work you need to do to get that ranked on the first page of Google. And our strategy was, if we can go viral with one of these clips and then be the first result on Google for that topic, then we could win. And we needed both of those things to happen for that to work. And so there was a lot of times where we went viral and we weren't first on Google. There's a lot of times where we were first on Google and we didn't go viral. But there were those times where we were both, and it was hugely beneficial for us. Probably the biggest success story was we did an episode about eels, which I don't know if you know this, eels, nobody knows where they come from. It's crazy. Like
Down deep
there's
in the Sargasso Sea, actually.
hey, there it
I
is.
have a book, and I'm not exaggerating the size. Nobody can see this on the audio, but like it's big. And I read it to my
All
kid.
about eels.
Yes, and it starts as an elver, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I would love to share all of that, but yes, I do know a lot about it.
Yeah, so we talked all about how weird their life cycle is, and just the whole story of eels. And we did a clip that went viral, and then we were the #1 result on Google for eels, which is crazy to me that we were able to beat out like Wikipedia and everything on eels. Nuts. But we did. We were the #1 result, and because of that, that episode launched and it got 112,000 downloads because we were able to nail that sync. And so it's, but there was, for every story of that, there's hundreds of stories of episodes that weren't big winners, where we missed, where it didn't go viral, we didn't rank on social media or on SEO, and so it is a story of consistency, a story of doing everything that you can and running the play, even when the play is not working, because eventually it will.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I got a couple things to get your feedback on, because like, what you're saying kind of resonates with this stuff quite a bit, which was, the consistency I think you mentioned. And then there was definitely this YouTuber who had mentioned the 5-year point is like, if you're putting in a lot of work, you're doing it regularly, that's where you're like, oh my gosh, I see what 5 years did for me, and there's some people that'll pop off before that, but I mean, like, the 5-year mark was like where it seemed to be really resonant. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
We were at about 4. But to be fair, we were creating content long before that. Like he and I, we had made sketch videos a lot. We actually went on tour and we had a whole live show we were doing for a while. And so we've done content for many, many years before we've done the podcast. And I think around that 4-5 year mark is when you start to see, okay, here's my content, here's my style, and you start to get you perfect it, you get good at doing your content, and you also like I said, get good at the marketing and figure out how to market it. That's the thing that I get fired up about all the time, is just how many talented people there are in the world that we don't know about. It's honestly very sad to me. You go through Spotify, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of artists that are better than anything on the Billboard Top 200, like objectively better, but they don't get over 1,000 downloads a month because they don't know how to market themselves, and they don't have anybody around them that knows and that can do it for them. And so I would argue, if you're a talented person, forget about honing your talent. You're already talented. Leave that on the side. Continue being talented. Go figure out marketing. Figure out how to market yourself and get eyeballs on your thing. That's where you'll be successful. If you're not talented, you should get talented.
Work on that first.
But once you're talented, figure out how to market yourself and get eyeballs on the thing you're doing. And that's where I think success really starts to show up for people. It's sad to me that a lot of people don't get that.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing I want to put by you is like that. I think her Instagram handle is like Karen X Chang, but she actually, yeah, all right, yeah.
I thought you said my Instagram handle. I was like, yeah, that's it.
That's it. No, that's not.
That's not my Instagram handle.
Karen X Chang. She actually she does like this a lot of stuff with like AI, stable diffusion, like all the like video media production, really cool stuff. But she just had this big thing of like recommendations, and I don't know if she was doing a TED talk or something, but anyway, her first recommendation was to like kind of feed the beast, and she said post every day. And and she was like, the algorithm will favor you if you actually just really commit to that. And I mean, like, definitely doing your stuff regularly, but wow, post every day is a tough challenge. And she was like, it was exhausting, but she was like, it just made the world of difference.
Yeah, I would take that a step further to say it's not so much the algorithm favors you. I would say it's you figure it out, you get better. Like if you're gonna do it every day, like you learn what works, you learn what doesn't, and you learn how to play to that. At the end of the day, the algorithm, a lot of people talk about the algorithm like it's this mystic beast that decides what works and what doesn't. But really all the algorithm is do people care about the content that you're putting out? Because that's what they want. The business of social is to keep people on the platform. And if your content isn't keeping people on the platform and keeping them engaged, then it's not going to win. But if you can create content that does that, that keeps people engaged, which means it's stuff that people want to see, then you're going to win on the algorithm. And I think the more you do content, the more you start to figure out, okay, this is what actually works, and you get better at it, and then you start to see success in the algorithm, not because your volume is there, and that is a factor in the algorithm, but I think more than anything is you just get good.
And then you're talented. You're already talented, and then then the cycle continues.
There it is. There it is.
Awesome. All right. So I think really the thing I've got to wrap it all up is, like, if you had a hope, wish, dream for what the podcast could become, what is it, and how does it incorporate still working here?
I mean, let's be real. I want it to make me $1 million. I want to make me filthy, stinking rich. I'm in it for the money, baby.
Yeah. All right. You should aim higher than $1 million, though. That's all I had.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm going to ask for some.
Yeah, I'll invest. There it is. No, honestly, I would say for me, I love that we get to do what we get to do. It's kind of bonkers to me. This last week, my co-host moved to Los Angeles. So now we live multiple states away, and the podcast is profitable enough where we can fly him out once a month. We have a studio space that is also his apartment, and it covers the cost of all of that. And so it's honestly very humbling for us to be at a spot where we can do that. We can create something that we love, that we would be doing no matter what. Like, even if people didn't watch this, we would be doing this show because it's just a lot of fun for us. And so the fact that we now have a team that the show can sustain, and we can have a space and continue to create it, like that's why I do it. I love it just because I love it. And so my dream is what it is, honestly. It's that we get to create this, and it doesn't have to be something that costs us a lot of money and I have to justify to my wife every month. Like, it's just a cool thing that works and runs on its own, and a lot of other people enjoy it, which is it's wild. I don't know why people love it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I hope a lot of other people, even from this podcast, definitely go check out your podcast, Things I Learned Last Night. And really, honestly, it was super cool being able to chat with you about all this stuff. I appreciate your input and stuff, all of the stuff, you being a loyal listener of the podcast here. Like, this has been great. So I appreciate your feedback and input on all these questions.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. You've made it. Actually, this was the sign. That's what I wanted to do. Run through the whole episode and be like, all right, now you've made it. You're here.
That's great. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody who's listened all the way through this. Thanks for listening through my laughter and all my dumb jokes.
Oh, great. They were perfect. Definitely will. I am your host, Brent Feldman. This has been another episode of Mix and Matchbox. We will be back soon with more content. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.